Hello, everyone. Do you hear the sirens? I was trying to wait to let the sirens pass, but hell is breaking loose in Toronto. Hello, I'm Daniela Saioni. I'm here live tonight to talk about, essentially to talk about my Director Whisperer training program for script supervisors in the first 10 years of their career, and especially to talk about why on earth you would get a script supervision coach in the first place. The main summary of that answer is because you can. Because you can. If you don't know, I have been training script supervisors for 30 years. It's my 30-year anniversary of training script supervisors. It's been my joy. And also, I love my job. I still do script supervise. I'm one of the people who train script supervisors and still has a full career. I just locked in a job today, and as my students know, I posted right when I got home from the interview, I posted, nailed it. I've never had anyone hire me so fast. It was like 5 minutes into the interview. He's like, stop talking. You've got the job. I was like, okay. No, I still love the job. I still do it. I still love it. I'm just very selective. So I get really happy when a script that I love is one where I have a good chemistry with the director, and I know that it's going to be a fun show. So yay, double yay. So I have been training like really, really high-end script supervisors. I myself have done 4 seasons of Suits. I have done Shazam. I have done Covert Affairs, Soul Food, the series, People of Earth, A Simple Favor 1 and 2 with Paul Feig. Oh my God, so many pilots, TV series, and many, many movies. Did I say Shazam? I probably did. And a lot of sort of cult favorites. Sometimes people are like, you did My Big Fat Greek Wedding, or you did The Boondock Saints? Yes, I did. And some of my students have done even more exciting things. They've done Oscar-nominated things, although Greek Wedding was nominated for an Oscar for Best Screenplay. But I've been so lucky to work in 10 different countries with lots of A-list directors and actors. And I always strive, the goal of my program, since I began teaching it in 1995, is for people to shorten the distance to the A-list. So I just went to the Christmas party for our script supervision local here in Toronto last week. And I was talking to some of my contemporaries who, some of whom are retiring now. I'm 55, so I'm sort of just working fewer and fewer shows on set and working more and more as a story consultant, which is my other job that I love. But they were talking about how when we began, there weren't a lot of coaches at all. When I started, it was 1991. When my colleagues started, it was the 1980s. So at the time, we'd graduate film school. Of course, film school never did, and sometimes still doesn't now, teach specifically on the role of the script supervisor. And there weren't really that many at all in the world. People like me now, people like myself and Randy Feldman and Don Gilliam. Back then, there was Avril Fisher. Sorry, that's a different, she's an AD in Toronto. Avril Rowlands in the UK. People who really made a career out of coaching other script supervisors and training them into the profession. So yeah, I know it's weird. I'm like one of 5 people in the world, maybe. There's more people who do sort of shorter courses. There's the lovely Sharon Watt in New York, and Timothy Hunt, who's one of our alumni in the Director Whisperer program, who teaches a weekend course at Rain Dance. But it's not, in terms of like a full vocational, comprehensive course that you can walk into and then walk out of and walk onto set. That's really the first few people I mentioned. You can count us on one hand, and we are a little bit crazy. Maybe people are always like, why do you do it? I love teaching. I always have loved teaching. But when I began, it was a mission for me, it was a mission to get people access to really good union jobs, because it was a little bit of an old boys club. It really was, not script supervision particularly, but the film industry. So it would be a lot of friends of friends, and, a lot of nepotism was involved. There's still some of that, but, it's not as rampant as it was in the 80s and 90s, where you had to really have an in to get in the film business. And I think with the collective efforts of the industry, and of course my effort through the Director Whisperer program over the years, has allowed more people access to the industry, specifically in our wonderful, wonderful job of the script supervisor. Now, if you don't know what script supervisors do, or if you just have like sort of a vague idea, I do have a 2-hour talk about it. It's on this channel. The whole talk is not on the channel. Like the intro to the talk is on the channel. It's one of the first in my script supervision playlist, and you got to type in your email address and get on my email list to watch it, because I teach that one at film schools. I teach a 2 to 4 hour lecture on what we do. It's a very intense job. It's not, it's not an entry level position by any means. It's a department head role, which is why one of the reasons why I think having a script supervision coach actually serves you really, really, really well. I can talk about how it served my students over the years, over the decades. As I was talking to my colleague last week, and he's like, we never had coaches when we started. I was like, I know. We had to do it. So I started script supervising in 91, and I started teaching in 95, like teaching sort of very seriously. I had trained people before then on set, and I had continued to train people on set all the way through to 2001 before they sort of cut off having set trainees. We'll talk about that some more, because it's a very particular thing to North America. And I know we have people all over the world who may be watching this. I have people in 28 countries in my program. So I know that there's people, in all different countries with different situations. And I love hearing more about, what is specific to where you live. By the way, feel free to type any questions or comments in the chat as we go along. I'll be able to see them. But I will also leave some time for Q&A at the end. I wanted to say that, yes, we didn't have coaches, really. There was a really good main film school summer program that I couldn't afford when I entered the industry. I didn't come from money. And so I had to basically, how I developed the early part of my program was interviewing and talking to every director and editor that I worked with, and then also taking courses with prime, like really strong editors and cinematographers and directors and actors. So I took acting lessons, I took it all. I was like a sponge, absorbing and analyzing sort of the big picture of what could make me a stronger script supervisor. And I firmly believe all that work not only helped me make one of the best programs in the world. I'm not even shy to admit that. I know it is, because I know the results that I help people get, and I have always helped people get. But really, it helped me to be a better script supervisor. And I'm not stingy with the information. I want us all to be respected, and I want us all to. Wouldn't it be great if we were all on the A-list? But whatever the A-list means for you, I always say the A-list, but the A-list is a different thing to different people. There's a literal A-list where you're working with directors like Paul Feig or some of your favorite, as long as you're working with your favorite director, like that might be your A-list, right? Or you have the type of career you want to have, like you want to, I don't know, some people love horror and they want to work on horror, or they want to transition to directing, because I've had a lot of students do that too. And I think in part it's because we now have the access to those jobs that we didn't used to have when I entered the industry in 91. Now it's a very, very natural transition for script supervisor to director. But also just the way that I teach, I call my program the Director Whisperer Training Program. It's training and it's also coaching, and I'll explain what I mean by that, because there's a slight difference. I not only teach on the craft, of course, I teach on the craft from my perspective, and I encourage everybody to have multiple script supervision coaches. I think, everyone I've met is really great. I really enjoyed talking to Don Gilliam for hours on the phone. We have a lot of the same, we align in many ways, but we teach differently. And so does Randy in LA. And so does, I talked to Sharon Watt about her 2-day program at Maine. And we all have a different thing that you can glean, just depends on how many coaches you want to have. But what boggles my mind is when people are like, oh, I'm self-taught. Like, because nowadays, like I was talking to my colleague, Doug, and saying, I would have killed to have like really strong, veteran coaches when we started. We were figuring it all out as we went along. I mean, luckily I got to a very good place in my career within the first 10 years. So I do say you want to be at your A-list, your enjoyable level of your career, whether it's working with A-list actors and directors or tier one television, or working towards your directing career, or working just on the kind of movies you love, or working internationally. I loved that part of my career. I still love it. I mean, I worked internationally this year. I was in Italy. But yeah, whatever A-list is for you, you want to get there within the first 10 years, because then it's sort of, I think that it's really, really hard to break through to the next level after the 10-year mark. I mean, everything's possible, of course, but you want to make sort of mindset and training a habit. I'll talk about, I have a higher level mindset coach as well for experienced script supervisors. My course, Director Whisper, I can take someone brand new and train them with the full breadth of everything they need to do to get to set, except for I teach digital script supervising because I've been digital since 1996, but I don't use any of the software. So if you need to specifically coach with someone on the software like Scarrett or Scripty or Scriptation, we have some incredible coaches within my program who are experts in all of those things, and they can train people in that, like, for, you can pay them privately to study with them if that's something you're interested in. But the big thing that I see in this day and age is that people think the software is the job. No, you're not gonna go far if you think just learning the software will make you a script supervisor. Every single veteran script supervisor will definitely agree with me on that point. We've talked about this. It's one of the things that's a way to make you more invisible. We try to be invisible in a creative way in the process, but certainly very present, at least in the way that I train the Director Whisperers to be like a valued member of the director's team. And we study the director's process so that we can have the director's back. I coach in this very specific way because I coach in the way that has made my career, that has made me shine among my peers, in the hope that my students get to shine among their peers. And they really do. I'm really, really proud of the level of work my students have done over the years. Someone said, I used to have a list of like all the cool shows my students have done, my alumni have done, but it's now tripled in the past 4 years as the program exploded. So I have to do a catch up on that list. But if you think of any great show out of North America, listen, I've got the most number of students in London, Toronto, and Los Angeles. So of course we do a lot of big A-list movies and TV series. But you'll find a Director Whisperer in many, many corners of the globe. And certainly in those three cities where I have the highest number of students. I think London right now has the record for most Director Whisperers, most people in my program internationally. But for a long time, it was Toronto because I was only teaching it here live until 2020. So from 1995 to 2020, if you wanted me to coach you, if you wanted to train with me, you would have to fly to Toronto. And of course, people did, but it was like more sort of under the radar. And it wasn't the way it is now, because having a script supervision coach, it's not like a one and done now. The way that the internet has helped what I do and people as learners is that you have lifetime access to this training. So it's like when I and I was going to talk about that. So I used to train people religiously on set, also in the classroom, but after they trained with me in the classroom, they'd shadow me on set, like whoever I could bring every single show. And I used to work a lot in the 90s because I was quite young. And I used to work a lot until I sort of deliberately slowed down my pace in my 30s. But I always had a trainee on set. It was just the thing that I love to do because I love to teach. And I find it helps me focus even more when I'm explaining to someone how to do the job. I mean, and usually I would do the bulk of my teaching in the classroom, and then they would come to set and see how it translated in their bodies. So, up to 2001, this was the case for me and a lot of people who also enjoyed having script trainees on set. But around 2001, we saw like a big shift in the industry where it was much harder all of a sudden to bring trainees on set. A few things happened. I mean, that was the year that 9/11 happened. I don't know what that has to do with anything, but I distinctly remember 9/11 happening and then no one allowed on set who's not like working on the show. So there was that. And then there was like a big lawsuit by interns in the United States. It started in the fashion industry. All these fashion interns were like, we were interning for free, and they won their lawsuit. So productions, all the studios were like, no one on set who isn't on the payroll. So when somehow the confluence of those two things made the industry a lot more locked down after 2001, and the only way I could get people on set to train them is if they were already employed on the show, which meant I ended up training a lot of stand-ins because they were already on shows and they were a natural sort of fit to be script supervisors, and a lot of assistant, not ADs, but assistant to the director and assistant to the producer kind of people. They got to train with me as long as, and people from the production office. So the only way I could get people on set is if they were on the show. And then I remember on Suits, NBC Universal, and they still have this program, had an internship program that was paid. So now if I get someone on set, they have to be paid. That's the rule by all the studios. And that, NBC and Disney all have programs like that. Still hard to get them on set because they could be part of that program or they might not be part of that program, but they ask permission and they can get on the payroll. However, a whole chain of people have to say yes. So the studio or the network, if it's TV, the producer, the director, and the script supervisor. Now, I'm always going to say yes because I love training people on set, but the director may not want an extra body around the camera, and production may not want the liability. They may not want to put them on payroll. Sometimes studios have training programs. We finally have a training program at IATSE, like an internship program. It's a diversity program, much needed. And NABET, the other union in Toronto, has that. A whole bunch of my students went through that. In the UK and in other countries, and we're trying to get it here, there is an assistant script supervisor role. So the other thing that is happening in the industry, it's been happening for years, decades, is that the work has changed. So the nature of the work, when I entered the film business, it was like one camera. It was one single camera, usually maybe two if we were splurging. And I often, when I did have trainees on set, I was able to really take time with them and teach them. Now, if you are lucky enough to get the assistant script supervisor position or a trainee script supervisor position, the script supervisor is now dealing with 3 cameras or more, and they're dealing with second unit, tandem unit, like there's a lot going on. So by the time you even get to an assistant script supervisor position, you are expected to be trained to the point where the script supervisor doesn't have to spend a lot of time retraining you or adding to your training to the specifics of the show because they're just swamped. So the nature of our work has gotten very intense. So it's almost become a lot more necessary to get some training and coaching. So what's the difference between training and coaching? I mean, they're tied. It's just that coaching is a more ongoing relationship. So I have a program, my Director Whisper training program is the core training. It's sort of the comprehensive training that I'm talking about, something akin to what Don Gilliam or Randy Feldman or people who have a comprehensive training program, meaning like you can take someone brand new who's never been to film school, never been on set, and by the time they complete your training, they're set ready. That's a comprehensive training program. A few of those exist in the world, like the ones I mentioned. I'm sure there are others in the English-speaking world. Our 3 are certainly the most popular, I would say. And then, so certainly I can take someone new and get them to set. That's the training. And I do that for myself in a 52-hour core training with a whole bunch of master classes. I have a whole bunch of specialty master classes that people have asked for along the way because I've done things like action blockbusters, comedy, script supervision. I'll go deeper into axis of action and certain topics in these master classes. So I just keep building on them. But the certification part, the training part is about 52 hours. And that's because a lot of the union locals will spell out like you need a comprehensive training program. A lot of them are asking, they'll say some will say it's optional to have a training program. Some will say it's recommended. And some people will say it's mandatory to have a training program. Whatever the case may be, to fulfill the union mandates, there's a certain length your course has to be. So mine definitely fulfills that length because the core is 52 hours plus there's all these master classes. So besides the training, which you have lifetime access to and you can keep going back to, and people do, because this is the beauty of the modern sort of way that we coach and train script supervisors, is that with the ability to watch recorded training, that I often update and add to, and everyone does, right? That's what we do. We keep making our courses better and better and updated with the times, because as someone who still works in script supervision, things change really fast, and we can add to the newer practices, et cetera. It's really handy to be able to have a fluid program that the person can go back to as they develop in their career. Now I have people that join my program at a quite senior level because they're already veterans. I consider like 15 years and up already a veteran in this field, because if you've been working steadily for 15 years, you're a veteran. You've seen probably a lot, and you probably can tackle most situations. If not, there's always. I love when new things come up for me, and I've been doing it like 35 years on set, or 33 years on set anyway, and 30 years in the classroom. I love it. I love learning, and I love sharing whatever I learn with my students. There's things I still haven't done yet, by the way. You'll see on this YouTube channel, I have a talk on the vertical wave, on vertical production. We don't do vertical productions on a union level yet in Canada, so I've never experienced a vertical production because I'm a union script supervisor, but my students have. So I love like sort of the community. Ciao. Oh, hi. Nice to see you. So yes, I there's things my students have done that I haven't done, but I like to go out there and when I can do them. So a lot of the big thing in these past few years since COVID has been like the tandem unit. And so I did my first tandem unit last week. Isn't that crazy? I had to experience what my students have been going through out there in the world. Why was I telling you that? Oh yeah, the difference between training and coaching. So in addition to the training, I have a whole bunch of coaching aspects to my work. So people do the course live, pre-recorded at their own pace with lifetime access, but then I go live every single week with them in a live Q&A. So they can ask me questions as they go along. I can clarify if something's changed or if something's updated, or if they need like a visual example, like do you have a form or an example of your memo, blah, 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 which often comes up. Last week, someone asked for a copy of my box rental form. When you are on a production, you have to give them a list of your kit because you get a kit fee, and you have to cost it out. So I gave the students sort of the example of what I'm using right now. So it's fluid, it's ongoing. I've been going live every single week, and since we started online in my program, which was June 2020. So it's like a lot of archived lives, but it's ongoing. And then people can also hire me for private coaching, which is, it's harder to get me now because especially now I'm about to do a 2-month show, but still it is possible. People do one-on-one coaching with me. And I also have a lot of master classes and parts of the program that deal specifically with career coaching, because I think career coaching is huge. Consider that there's so many script supervisors in the world. There's so many jobs in the world. A whole number of people will have done coaching and training with one or more of us, of the major sort of script supervision coaches. Some of them will also have been lucky enough to train one-on-one with the script supervisor on set. It's really rare, but if you can get there, like definitely take advantage of that, because it's a lot rarer now. But in the UK, certainly, where script assistants are a thing, and we're trying to make it more of a standard thing in North America as well, that kind of experience is invaluable. It all sort of feeds in to the speed at which your career will accelerate. And I do a lot of career coaching in the program just to focus people's mindsets on like selecting the right projects for them. The right project means a different thing for different people. It can be very personal to you. Also to negotiate well, to pick good projects, to learn how to seek them out, to pick them, to negotiate well. I'm often, people are sometimes asking me stuff about their deals, which I'm helping them with. And just really, I think strategy is huge when you are, and I say competing, but we're such a love fest. My students in the Director Whisperer program are so nice, and we're such a community. We're such a positive community, that I hesitate to say the word competition because I don't even feel that way. I feel like the world is abundant with really good jobs, and there have traditionally never been enough of us, even though there's a lot of us in Toronto, LA, and London specifically, where most of my students are. But the more you can tap into your community and help each other and lean on each other, I think it actually gets you farther. So I always tell people, like, mentor other people. I've mentored you. You mentor other people. Keep the love going, right? Keep the information flowing. Teach directors and producers how to respect us, because that is the biggest sort of shift. I mean, is it a shift, or has it always been that way? Sometimes we face more and more roadblocks with people not understanding our job. So the better, be the change you want to see in the world. So lead by example, and educate people, even if it's one at a time, on how we can help them and what we do. You'll notice so many talks on my channel, especially on the Script Supervisor playlist, about that, about specifically the political side of our job in terms of being respected as department heads. Somebody on the UK forum said in the UK, they're technically not department heads, which is shocking. I know that when I was in Europe this year, we had a gathering in Zagreb for many of the European script supervisors, and a bunch of them were saying in many of the countries still we're not considered department heads, which is shocking. In North American unions, we certainly are department heads. And that's another like huge reason that you can't, like, we're stepping onto set as a department head, which is another reason to be as trained as you can be, to really have done as much of the work of training and educating yourself as you can. You can do it the slow way, like I did, and take a few years to really go in depth with directors and editors. But people like me, the other main script supervision coaches in the world over the years have done that. We've been able to synthesize that research and experience into our programs, and I'm sure there will be new people teaching great programs as well. And like, listen, that's great. We need it. I think we need it as script supervisors because we step onto set as department heads. That's part of the joy of this job, that we get to step onto set as a department head. But you also don't want to take for granted how important it is to listen. I don't want to like stress anybody out to feel like they have to be perfect, because we're human beings. We're not robots. We still there will be, it's the nature of filmmaking that mistakes will be made. I use that in quotes because there's no right and wrong in art. It's all art, right? It's all choices. So there will be better choices and worse choices, but we need to have enough competence to actually help have the directors back to know, okay, yes, you have enough material to cut this into the movie you want it to be. And that's where the focus of my training is, especially in the visual storytelling. Also a lot about the minutia of our notes. It's very important that we communicate everything in a detailed and fluid way to the editors, so that they save money, not only with our judiciousness on set, but also once they get to post, that our notes can help them make a better product. So if you could get coaching in that, why would you not? That's all. It's like thinking back going, wow, I wish I had that. I would be such a nerd about it. I mean, I was a nerd about it. I took a whole bunch of editing and directing and acting courses, and I still take acting courses because now I'm a professional actor as well. But in those early days, I was really soaking in everything, because in this role, and again, if you don't know fully what we do, please check out my talk, The Role of the Script Supervisor in Film and Television. Somewhere on this channel, you can tap into where that talk is. There's many other talks on my channel if you haven't poked around on the playlist. But I'm such a nerd about this stuff because it's the thing I love about our job. One of the things I love about our job, besides being able to work so closely with directors and actors, and learning all the time, is just having the big picture of the whole movie, learning from all the people around us, all these talented creatives around us, and just taking that in to help them do their best work. It's great, and I like to give my students everything. Like, I don't spare any information for them. I want everybody to win. So I think, obviously, getting a coach or training, because some people just coach with me privately, but it's much more all consuming, like all transformational. I think it's much more transformational, unless you only need like one thing. Like, sometimes people private coach with me about eye lines and stuff, but if you it's actually I think so good to have access to all the knowledge that's in my brain in a digital format, and then to be able to talk to me live every week through the live Q&As, and same with whoever you train with. I just want to say, in general, whoever you train with, whether it's me or not, to not deny yourself the opportunity, because you're going to shave years off that learning curve in your career. You're going to stand out in a good way. I keep getting over the years, listen, I've been teaching for 30 years, but I love that I keep getting these emails from my students that say, oh my God, this was my first feature, and they told me I'm the best script supervisor they ever worked with. Or we have this thing called love letters from editors, where the editors will write you this incredible letter about the quality of your work. I always encourage people to share those in our class group. We have Facebook groups for my class. So I know that it's having an impact and getting people noticed and getting people working. And the more that you're at that level where you're getting seen as a really valued member of the director's team, obviously the sooner you'll be making good money. In many parts of the world, there are no unions, but there are differences between tier A shows. There's differences in pay, there's differences in respect, there's differences in the level of shows you'll get at what point in your career. And I've seen people do it really quickly, like really early in their career. Listen, I have students beating me out for work all the time, which is awesome. It's awesome. Like I said, I'm 55. I've been doing it a long time. If I can train people to the level where we have such a strong department, and we really do in Toronto, we have a massively strong department. It's great. We have a long history of high level training here. I can only be thrilled. I can only be thrilled when my own students beat me out for work, because it just means like the future is bright, right? The future is like we're continuing. I want to leave this industry better than I found it. And there were lots of things broken when I found it that we're all slowly, collectively working on fixing. I say slowly because we want it to go much faster. We want all of us, I'm sure, most of us would like to have a script assistant, especially, in TV series where the workload is so intense. Because we are mostly a department of one in most of the world, another reason to get coaching is to not feel alone. Like you can feel so alone in this. We are mostly a department of one, and mostly department heads, depending on what country you're in. It can feel very like people don't understand us. And if you have a community and a coach, I think it really helps you feel like you're part of something bigger, and people can give you advice based on their experience. We cover for each other on shows. Listen, I still have, I was just telling them about my, thank you. He said that's the mark of a great teacher. I don't know. I think people either love teaching or they don't. And sometimes people are like, are you crazy telling everybody your secrets? No, I'm not crazy. Like when I got to the industry, it was a whole different place. It was a much more closed place, and it doesn't have to be like that. It's a much happier place now, I think, and it can go even farther. We're not like all the way there yet. So why not? And also, I know that in parts of the world, there is still work anxiety, but by the way, it's not like that in Toronto. It's very busy. Although I think the non-union world in Toronto is still, it's going to hit its higher peak sort of in spring, but in the union world, it's pretty busy here. And we've just been hearing things about tax credit announcements in British Columbia and Newfoundland that I think are going to make the work explode even more in parts of Canada. And the US will be back. It's been a painful uptick in the US. And I'm actually a little nervous about what the tariffs thing will bring, like even for people like me who has a lot of students in the US. So what if someone wanted to buy my course after Trump, enacts tariffs? Is he going to make them pay an extra 25% on my course because I teach in Canada? That would be terrible. I mean, that would be really awful. I'll have to think of how to address that because, my course is right now the lowest. I think it's the lowest price one for the comprehensive level that it is in the English speaking world. But I want to encourage people to try that if they're considering my program. If you're watching this and you're considering training with me or hiring me as a coach, by the way, I'll tell you a little bit about my something I started this year. I know that to me, there are different breakthrough levels in a career. I've identified sort of 5 breakthrough levels in a career. I talk about it in one of my master classes, which is called Breakthrough to the Next Level of Your Career and Enjoy It. And the faster you can hit those breakthrough levels, the sort of faster you get to the A-list. And once you're on the A-list, there's still breakthrough levels beyond that because sometimes people want to, become directors or producers or writers. And then the highest level is when you want to retire gracefully. I've identified that 5th level because I know a lot of people sort of in my generation who are looking for how to retire gracefully. So the first level is basically getting your first long form work. So your first feature or significant TV series is sort of the first sort of breakthrough once you graduate a program like mine or just break into the industry. And it's usually the first sort of notable one. You want to have a credit. Like one of my alumni is Kat. Kat founded the International Script Supervision group that many of us are in on Facebook. It's called Script Supervisors with an exclamation mark. Kat was script supervising for, I want to say maybe 2 or 3 years in the non-union world after my program. And she did this movie, and it wasn't even like the world's biggest movie. It was called 1 Week, and it was Joshua Jackson going across Canada on a motorcycle. That movie actually got play. Canadian films are not, they don't often get traction, but it actually got known, and her career started to take off. So for me, that movie, for me, it's interesting. I had a very interesting career, especially in those early years, because I graduated into a recession like many people did in these past few years. But so Kat did 1 week, and then she got into NABET, which is one of the unions here. And she said she started earning 3 times the wages. So you do sort of like your first long form. And yes, that first long form is a hurdle to get over, but the one that sort of makes a mark. For me, I want to say the true iteration of that for me happened with my Big Fat Greek Wedding, which was 7 years into my career, maybe 8 years. But then those 3 years that followed, I hit other milestones. So I got into I started in a union called ACFC in Canada, the Association of Canadian Film Craftspeople, which only exists in Vancouver now. We merged with IATSE. Then I found myself quickly doing IATSE A-list. So the next milestone is getting into a union, right? Getting into a union and then getting those A-list shows consistently. So I really started to see that deeper into my career. By the way, the photo of me, obviously, the photo that I used for this talk was from 2006. So that was from like 11 years into me being a teacher and a coach. I saw that and went, oh my God, I was teaching so young. And that was like 11 years in. But I was, that's just how it was. And I have been able to see, people do, but I started to identify those breakthrough levels, and I could get to each next level faster and faster. The third one is, what did I say? So that first feature, that like getting into the union, A-list series, yes. And then either directing or writing if you want to, you could be fine being a lifer on the A-list, like just enjoying your work on high level shows. It's great. And listen, I serve people at all 5 levels, but if you're in the sort of upper, like the 4, transitioning to directing or retiring, there's a different program I can help you in. Besides the Director Whisperer program is craft heavy. So there's a ton of training in there, and there's certainly coaching and strategy. But I have a different program that I only do once a year called the A-Listers Breakthrough Coaching Program. And I have a small group. I'm working with the first group ever right now, and I'm really thrilled with it. It's all mindset. It's all mindset to get you like out of your current level of script supervision and, being able to be confident on bigger shows, negotiating for higher rates, all of that, or creating a whole world of stuff you do that can bring you income outside of script supervision. So I do have a separate course for that if you're someone in those higher levels of your career who wants that kind of coaching, because I've done all 5 levels. Listen, I tried to retire. I tried to retire in 2022. I announced it. I told everybody I was retired. I kept getting work, but also the way that IATSE, the way that our union is structured, if I don't wait till I'm 65 to retire, which is in 10 years, they take away all the benefits. Like I lose all my benefits. So I have to basically keep working, but I'm just trying to be on set less because, I'm also in the Writers Guild here and I get a lot of work that way. I'm also in the Actors Union, but I really rarely do that. But I think I might do that more this year. Anyway, all that to say, you can design your life, and designing your life as a script supervisor and beyond in the film business, I believe that's the coaching side of what I do. The strategy stuff is the coaching side of what I do, and it really makes an impact on people. I've had students work on Oscar-winning and Oscar-nominated features in the union. I've had students get in the union within a year. Listen, that's not normal results. Like normally, you're looking at least 3 years here in Canada and the US before you have enough credits to get into the union. I'm not saying everybody will get in within a year, but I can help you guys. I can give you the roadmap to do that. It's hard to figure all that out on your own, especially when the other people that are working alongside you in your city are getting all that training and coaching. So just something to consider when you think about what's available to you as a script supervisor. There's not one way to be a script supervisor. Like I don't say that how I train you guys is the only way. Like everybody's got their own sort of expertise, their own spin on what might be more effective for your career. But I hope that you can trust me with the track record I've had, both as a teacher and as a script supervisor. I've been really, it is a little bit of luck, I've been lucky. I've also been very strategic. I'm someone who specifically wanted to work internationally, and I went for it. Sometimes that's not people's goals, which is fine, and that doesn't have to be your goal. But I always get people to consider this, like on a mindset level, to be a global profession, because the film business is very fickle. Like some years it will favor Canada, and some years it will favor the US, and some years it will favor London, and some years it will favor Romania and Bulgaria and Serbia. So you've got to be able to travel if you want to. Really depends. You might not want to chase the work that much. You might be content with a certain level of work. Everything is going to be to a certain degree individual and I like that. Like I like giving people advice based on their individual situation. I can do some degree of that in my live Q&As. Does anyone have any question? Oh my God, I've been talking for 42 minutes. There are a few things I want to tell you guys about too. So, like I said, I don't know what's going to happen with the tariffs. I don't know if they're going to add this 25. Trump is really threatening Canada with like adding 25% to everything that we export. I'm like, does that include online courses? I do not know. It won't affect the UK, of course. It won't affect Australia, New Zealand. Listen, I have students in all these countries. I have many in Australia, New Zealand, certainly many in Serbia, a few in Spain, Hungary, countries like that. And where there's film, basically anywhere there's a film industry. I have students in Nigeria. I have students in Mexico. I would love more students in Mexico, by the way. I don't know if it's a language thing, but we have so much work in Mexico. I know I can really make a difference, but it could be a language thing where I don't speak Spanish. I do speak Italian. I do speak French, but I can only work in those languages one-on-one with people. I don't really teach in those languages. Does anyone have questions about okay, I just want to make clear that if you take a program like mine, and I can only speak to mine, but I know that, Randy and Dawn sort of have a similar structure where you can study with us online. You have, I believe in all our cases, certainly in my case, you have access to the material for life. Anytime I upgrade or add to the information, I just roll it into what people have already purchased. So, the price keeps going up because the program keeps expanding, and I'm going to do a total reshoot in 2025. I just want a more professional level studio shoot. That's going to cost me a lot of money, but I'm going to do it finally. The price will go up at that point. But everyone who buys in, whenever they buy in, they get the next level. They'll keep getting upgraded. The people who are in my beta, I had like a beta price when I started in 2020 until the end of 2022. I had some beta prices going on. They're going to pay a little upgrade fee, but everyone from here on in is basically, when they join, they're on the ride, and they'll get the next update, and it'll just keep growing like that every year. And I will and they'll keep going with the live Q&As. It's such a good community. Like, I think half the reason to join any program like this is besides the training is for the community. Everyone's I'm really lucky. I have like such nice people in the program. I always have, even in 1995, even in the very first classes I ever taught. I'm still friends with them. Most of them are still working script supervisors in the various unions in Canada, and we still talk. Like, it's not a relationship that ends when the class is over. I have people that I trained in 95 who will email me for advice, and that's cool. Like, I'm happy. That's what it's about. It's an ongoing, that's what mentorship is, right? And those people do mentor other people, and the cycle continues. So yes, you get access to the program, access to the weekly lives, which we currently do in Facebook. Sometimes I'll hop on a Zoom and do them on Zoom. Sometimes I'll have specialty classes on Zoom. Sometimes I'll invite the public. Sometimes I do my Script Supervisor Power Hour, which is what I call our live Q&As, publicly on YouTube. Those are fun sometimes. Hi, Oyemi. Hello, Nigeria. Yes, I have some students in Nigeria, and Oyemi, were you my winner of the Nollywood scholarship last year? You were, weren't you? Because he was studying in Toronto, but also because by the way, I do have scholarship announcements coming up. Probably in January, I'm going to do the next one, and I give out 3 full scholarships to my programs a year. I'm going to wait till the Christmas rush is over, because I have a lot going on with the regular program sales. The program is I'm trying to get everyone registered by January 4th, if possible. It's not that, you can jump on anytime, you can join whenever, but I have to start to plan the reshoot, and I have to start to plan the price increase. So if you're considering joining the program, I've added some bonuses to help people, sort of encourage them to join, like, over the holidays and by the January 4th. And then after we get through the January 4th kind of rush in sales, then I'm going to announce the scholarship. So the scholarships, I give out 3 full scholarships to my programs. Last year, we had so many people that were so in need that I ended up giving out 5 full scholarships, and I gave out 10 partial scholarships. It was like a lot. Basically, what I'll do is I'll announce it here and in the Script Supervision groups. And it's based on financial need, but one of them is a Nollywood scholarship, just to acknowledge the growing industry, and it's actually a huge industry in Nigeria, and it's important, especially when I heard of the working conditions my students in Nigeria were facing. It's pretty intense. The wage disparity in Africa, and I know a lot of other countries have wage disparities, but so one of them is going to someone in Nollywood, and if we don't have a Nigerian, I'll give that scholarship to someone in Africa. I always have a lot of people in Africa applying for the program, and it is a huge, for them, it's a big expense. So definitely that's coming. And, the last time I ended up giving away so many scholarships because we had a lot of war refugees. We had a lot of people fleeing war. It was so hard to pick. It was so hard to pick, like, to narrow it down to even those 5, right? And then I gave some people partial scholarships because they were in situations that warranted it. So we are going to do that again. I just want to get through the January, sort of the end of December, January rush, which is when most people register for my program. So to encourage people to join by January 4th, I have some bonuses going. So whether I have a payment, I have like a 4-payment plan where you can pay, I think it's $349 US 4 times, like every month. So once a month for 4 months. Makes it a little bit higher, but it's like a slowly rolled out payment plan. There's no taxes on it. For the Canadians, because of the sticker shock of the US dollar right now, it's really bad. I'm that the taxes are included in that amount. The price will include the taxes for the Canadians, and there's no tax for the other Canadians. Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. Oh, Yummy, you have a similar name to the person who did win. I'm going to look him up. But yes, you can apply this year. If Script Supervision is something that you're interested in, you can totally apply. Certainly apply for a scholarship, especially if you are based in Nigeria and want to be a Script Supervisor. This would be a really good for you. There are some women in Nigeria who are applying too, but everyone apply. I'll adjudicate it, as fairly as I can. And I really do take to heart what you guys are going through. One of my students in Nigeria, he was working like 7 days a week and going from project to project. And I said, why don't you just take a break? And he said, if we take a break, we don't eat. And I was like, what? And then he was explaining how different the wages are here, because we have strategies. Like, I coach my students to take breaks because you cannot burn out. This is an industry where too many of us burn out. There's that kind of coaching too, like work-life balance kind of coaching, because of the wage disparity in Nigeria. That's why that's why that decision was made to have one of the scholarships definitely go to Nigeria, and then if not, to Africa in general. But, even if you're wherever you are in the world, if you really are in dire need of financial need, just know that most of the people who won the scholarships last year were like refugees. They were fleeing war, or they were in a very, very impoverished third world country. It's hard to win it in North America because we don't even realize how advantaged we are in this country. When you read and hear the stories of what Script Supervisors go through, even in some European countries, the way that the wages are, it's crazy. But certainly, in parts of Asia and South America and Africa, of course. So what was I saying? I can't remember what I was saying. Oh yeah, the bonuses. So you'll see on this page, there's a little, anyone who pays either using the payment plan or in one payment. If you pay in one payment right now, the price is $12.97 US. It's going up next year, but I haven't announced a date yet. It'll probably be spring by the time I get around to shooting the new version, and it's going up. But it's $12.97 US if you pay in one installment, and it's $349 US in 4 installments. Still the lowest price you're going to find for this level of interaction and ongoing work. When you think about it, like in North America, that means, 3 days of non-union work, a day and a half of union work. But in other countries, it means something very different. So I do respect that. Oh, good. OEM is going to apply. That's fantastic. And you're on my mailing list. That's why I recognize your name too. I thought you were the person who went. I'm sorry. He's already in the program. He was here doing film school, but I think he might have gone back to Nollywood, which is why I thought he was back in Nigeria. I thought you might have been him. So anyone who applies, whether they pay in one payment or a full payment, will get I don't have an example with me. I have a mug company called Cup of Jokes with different phrases for Script Supervisors on it. And there's like some different versions of tumblers with a handle that you can seal for set. There's like big sort of stainless steel with a little hole at the top so you can drink your coffee on set. Some of them say director whisperer. They say axis schmaxis, which is one of the courses I teach. They say, I know when you're crossing the line, just do as I say and we'll make our day. There's all kinds of silly phrases for Script Supervisors. Everyone who purchases the program by January 4th gets one of those shipped to them. I'll pay for it and I'll pay for the shipping. It's totally free to you. Whether you use the payment plan or not, it's just a little bonus to encourage you to join by January 4th. And then if you end up paying in one installment, if you're able to pay the $12.97 in one installment, I will include 2 hours of private coaching. That is like, so just to let you know, right now, my private coaching rate is $75 an hour US, and it's going up on January 4th to $100 US. So that's a really substantial sort of bonus to get, and you can use it anytime in the next 2 years. You get some degree in the class, meaning you'll get, if you join the program, you get a 20-minute welcome Zoom with me, and I take you through sort of where to find everything in the class, and I answer any questions you have. You'll also get, there's a resume evaluation that I do when you finish the program, and then I evaluate the 2 pieces of homework in the program, which one is a shot list and one is a script timing breakdown. In the new version, I'm adding an editing exercise, which I think is really the only thing that I really think is missing from my program right now. But other than that, it's weekly live Q&As and Zooms, and then people pay extra if they want to do one-on-one coaching. So whoever purchases in one payment will get also 2 hours of private coaching with me that they can use in increments of half an hour or an hour over the next 2 years. So just book it with me and say, usually people will use that time. I'll give you some examples of how people use private coaching time with me. Sometimes it will be to go through their deal to say, okay, what can I ask for? Like I can help them negotiate. Sometimes it's like further, deeper dive into the top sheet, which is our daily progress report, or, some of the harder things like eye lines and access. They just want extra coaching on that. Very often it will be career coaching, like, okay, I've gotten this offer and this offer. What should I do? Or another way that I really liked, I had a student in LA who had 2 hours of coaching time. And after he finished his first short out of the program, because I always say the first thing you got to do if you've never been on set is to just do a short, any short you can get your hands on, to get the workflow into your body, and do 2, like do 2, but don't, I've heard people say all kinds of crazy things about how long you should have to volunteer. You should not have to volunteer in this job. There's way more work than there is us. Even in dire times like this, it's been a little bit crazy in some parts of the world. People still can't get, people to cover for them. It's getting a little bit on that crazy busy side again, and it's just going to be full tilt for a few years, and the film industry will go down again because the film industry does what it does. So definitely, don't count on a wall of work forever, but it is fairly busy. So get those couple of shorts in your body and then go for that like first sort of long form credit. So I had this student that after he did those first 2 shorts, he did a half hour of coaching time with me, like just to debrief. He's like, this is what happened. These were the highs. These were the lows. This is what I could have done better last time. Here's an example of my notes. What do you think? So that one-on-one coaching time becomes really useful. Like having access to the program, it's like you have a go-to mentor. You can look over my shoulder. You can see how I do my notes. You can, see how I handled some pretty hard situations in my own career, because I tell you guys everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? Because you'll learn from it. Like I learned from it, and therefore you can learn from it, and you can learn from the collective experience. But it is really good also when you can to have that one-on-one time and really talk about specifics. It's great, I think. So those are the bonuses for anyone who purchases the Director Whisperer training program by January 4th. And then on January 5th, I will put out the call for the scholarship spots. And you can still join after January 4th. I just don't know at what point I'm going to raise the price. It'll probably be March. I don't know. You can join at any time. Because basically it's one of those things where whenever you join, you go at your own pace. I'm there every single week on the lives. You can just ask me questions based on where you're at. There's people who graduated, years ago, and they still come to the live Q&As because there's still questions that come up when you're on set. All kinds of, even more questions come up when you're on set. And what else did I want to tell you? The next A-listers, the next time I think I'll be offering the A-listers, the higher level coaching program will be in June. If you're watching this and going, oh, I'm really like too far along in my career to do the training program. And listen, it's funny. There are people who have 20 and 30 years in the training program. They're just doing it as an add-on to their own experience, especially because I teach other teachers. There's people who train people in their home countries. So it's great. They're not teaching, just don't teach the same thing I teach, but it'll give them an idea of how to structure a course and all of that. But we're all going to teach from our own voice anyway. But yeah, so there's people with a lot more experience. But if people are taking the A-listers program, it's usually because they want to accelerate to the next breakthrough level in their career. And I really firmly believe and have experience in. I believe I can help people do that, and I have a lot of experience in that. So in June, I'll put out the call for that program. That program. Right now is at an experimental price of $697 US. I may keep it at that price in June, but it's going up to a normal price. Like I want to say at least $997 next year. So for those thinking about A-listers, just reach out to me. I may put a waiting list page up so people can just let me know that the next time I offer it to contact them. So, in summary, the quicker you can get to A-list work, the more money you will make sooner, the more you will be have access to. It's like a whole cycle, right? And it is possible to get to make a lot of progress early in your career. It's harder when you're doing it later in your career. I mean, this is film; everything is possible. But I think the earlier you can get a good running start on your career, the better I think it will be. It'll give you more satisfaction in your career. That we have a high burnout rate in this field. I mean, I'm someone who's been here for 32 years, right? 32, 34. When did I start? 91. Oh my God, I'm verging on 34 years. That's crazy. And I had very specific things I had to do not to burn out, because I saw people burning out all around me. It is not an entry-level job. I mean, you can be an entry-level person and start as a department head, but there's a lot of work that you got to do, training before you can get there. Learning on the job, sure, we're going to learn on the job, but don't count on learning on the job, because there's a lot of people depending on you, to make strong choices on their behalf in a way that's going to benefit the production on both a time and money level. So don't risk the production. Hopefully when you first finish the course and you do those early shorts, and some people come to me all like deep into their career, like 8, 9, 10, 12 years into their career, they've already made a whole bunch of mistakes and learned from them, and they're just learning even more. But if when you start on those first couple of shows, make them really low risk, make them like student films or indie films, but don't get stuck in indie world forever, because unless that's where, I do have people that's where they love to live. For them, that's their A-list, but they just do better and better indie films, like more ones that are recognized in festivals. My trainee, Jimmy, who was formerly Michaela, you'll see my video where Michaela was my assistant script supervisor. They did an amazing, he did an amazing film called The Swearing Jar that won Best Film at Tribeca really, really early in his career. So it was sort of, that was that first breakthrough, and then they got into the union. And he did 13 the musical. So now he's working, there's so many ways you can come into a career, and there's so many ways that people start out even before they train. There's a video on this channel called Where Do Script Supervisors Come From? And it talks about whatever angle you're coming into the profession from, you have a superpower, right? There's always strengths and weaknesses that we all have, no matter where we're coming from. I think actors have a lot of the superpowers, especially in the way that I train script supervisors. Certainly actors and directors and writers. Do you hear the sirens? It's very loud here. It's very loud sirens in Toronto. So anyway, I digress. The bonuses are on till January 4th. Feel free to reach out to me if you want to do a Zoom to ask me about script supervision, about the program. But if you just want to know about script supervision in general, definitely check out my talk that's on this page, The Role of the Script Supervisor in Film and Television, because I go deep. It's a 2-hour talk. I go deep in there. I don't want to another reason I'm doing this as a live is so that I don't have to repeat the information over and over. It says I've got 8 people tuned in. Does anyone have questions either about my program or about why would you hire a coach, especially if you're already a script supervisor? I think that's a no-brainer, though. I think it's like you're already a script supervisor, but you might want to accelerate through to your next breakthrough level. Definitely. That's a good reason to get coaching. Listen, I create the courses that I want to see in the world. Always. You'll see all my courses are that. I train screenwriters. I train story editors. That's the sort of the course I'm actually really focused on now is putting together my cohort for Story Editor Studio as well. It's a big one for me because I'm one of the only people in the world that teach that. So I create the courses I want to see in the world. Nicole, what time are your lives on Melbourne time? Oh, Nicole, great question. So I vary the times of my lives. My lives are always going to be on a Saturday or Sunday, rarely on a Friday night. It just depends, like on my shooting schedule, because I'm very often at work. But most of the time, because I have people in Melbourne, I have people in Australia and New Zealand, like quite a significant number of people. In fact, I noticed that like Perth is like really busy. I don't know how busy Melbourne is, Nicole. I have more writing students in Melbourne than I do script supervisors, but I have a ton of script supervisors all over Australia. So we vary them. So this week, when am I going live this week? I always announce it about now, and it's usually a Saturday afternoon. So so sometimes they'll be at 11 in the morning my time when I know you're still asleep in Melbourne. But sometimes it will be more like 5 or 6 p.m. or it'll be like a Friday night at 8 p.m. I've certainly done that. It's obviously if you're in London, and I have a lot of students in London and they're ahead of me by like 5 hours. If I'm going on at 8 p.m., I don't expect them to be tuning in. What I do expect, but they do anyway. Sometimes it's fun. What I do expect is if you have a question, like a burning question that you want me to answer, I can answer it on email for sure. But if it's like a long answer, I'll say, I'll answer it in the live. So you don't have to be in attendance in the live. You can watch the replay. But it is really nice to have the live sort of interaction. If you join my program, Nicole, and you see like the past talks, you'll see what all the Australians, they're often like, it's so funny. Like I have more people in the program in London, but I would say more Australians tend to attend the lives. I don't know why, but I think it's great because you guys are like the farthest from me physically, right? So yeah, and I think some of them are like on their way to set sometimes when I'm on. So I don't have an answer for you because it varies every week. I don't think I posted the time for this week, but I will be in Montreal this week, so I'm broadcasting the live from Montreal. So I'm guessing I'm going to go on probably on Sunday morning this week. Joaquin says, Nicole, oh my God, some of the best directors I work with are from Australia. I worked with Lee Wanell. He created the Saw franchise, which I never worked on, but I worked with him on The Invisible Man. And I was like, you are so good. And then we've had a bunch of Australian sort of directors in television on Suits. We had a few, but like just on Covert Affairs, on Suits. Really, really strong filmmaking and television history. And of course, some of your actors are like I worked with Guy Pearce. Guy Pearce was amazing in Trader. And that was, and isn't, maybe Rosalind is a Brit. Rosalind Pike. Is she British? I think she's British. I worked with her. But I worked with a lot of Australian actors, of course, or a couple of them in my Big Fat Greek Wedding. So yeah, like you guys have such a film tradition. Of course, how are you not going to be like amazing? Yeah, you guys are amazing. It's funny because I didn't talk about this, but I like to have in-person meetups with my students. So I did 3 in London last year. Was it 3 last year or the year before? But I go to London every single year, at least once a year. I try to go to New York every year. It's been a while since I've been in New York, but like I went to Atlanta this year. That's why I went to Atlanta a few months ago. We have Toronto meetups, but I like to have those in-person meetups because I think even though we're separated by a computer screen, I do like to have that high touch point with my students. I do like to know my students like in person whenever possible. So this year I did have a meetup in Zagreb, and people flew in from Greece and drove in from Slovenia and bussed in from Belgrade. Like it was amazing. It was so beautiful to see. So people, all that to say, my Australian students are like, when are you coming to Melbourne? And because my best writing and story editing students are in Melbourne, that is a city that I do want to hit. But I do have a lot of script supervisors more in on the Gold Coast. Is that where Perth is, the Gold Coast? I think that I learned so much from them, or I learned a little bit from them about your geography. And then I have other people in like they're scattered around. but for some reason, my writers tend to be in Melbourne, like a whole bunch of them. So I do want to come one day to Australia and do an in-person meetup. That would be fun. I don't know how we're going to get everyone from like across the country into Melbourne, but Melbourne would be my first. That would be where I'd go first. Oh, Nicole, you're going to get on a Zoom with me. You're welcome to just. I'm doing an info Zoom with Nicole tonight, and I'm going to just be working here. I have a whole bunch of work to do tonight. But if anyone has any questions, I'll answer them. But otherwise, like just if you can't attend the weekly lives in person, I will answer, and you can watch the replays. You can watch replays since June 2020. It's like crazy amount of hours of Q&A, but it's more fun. I think it's more fun to do them live, and it's even more fun to meet each other in person. So thanks everyone. I don't think we've still got people tuned in, but it's okay. You can reach out to me on email. Oh, let me post a banner. Oh, I was going to announce something. I have a digital stocking stuffer. I forgot to announce this. So every Christmas, I like to give something away for free, besides even to the people who don't take my courses. So my digital stocking stuffer this year, I'm going to, there we go. If you go to bit.ly/rapwork, I'm offering one of my I have a 1-hour mini course on how script supervisors wrap out their paperwork at the end of a show. So it's a little bit advanced if you've never actually script supervised before, but this is a good present for someone in their first few years. It will still mean something to people who've never done it before eventually, but I think it's more for people in their early years of their career. So this year, it's a mini course. It says it's $47 on because I'll have prices on my master classes. This is not like a 3-hour master class. It's only a 1-hour class, but it's quite detailed, and it goes into the step-by-step things I do to wrap out a show, which is a very mysterious thing to some people. Listen, even if you're watching this and you're a production manager or a producer who wants to know what we do, you're welcome to access this course. What you need to do to get the coupon code is WRAPGIFT, WRAPGIFT in all caps. Let's see, is that going to add it? Is it going to? Yeah, right there. That's the coupon code, WRAPGIFT in all caps. When you're on that page, you scroll down, there's a little blue question that says, do you have a coupon code? Just type in WRAPGIFT in all caps. It'll still, unfortunately, because of the web service I have, they'll still ask you for either a PayPal or Google Pay, Apple Pay, or a credit card number, but it's not going to charge you. Typing in the coupon code will take the total down to 0, but just because of how it works, it'll still make you type something in there. So, I mean, use your PayPal. It'll be 0. So you're not going to get charged for it. I'll get charged some kind of a fee from Stripe. That's okay. I'll pay that. But it should say 0 balance, and it'll give you direct access to that talk. It was one of the most popular talks I did this year. So I thought that's the one I'll give away for free to anyone who would like it. bit.ly/rapwork. For anyone who wants to know how script supervisors use their wrap day or days on set on a step-by-step level. Oh, I see there's a question. Quick question regarding script supervising. Is it always union work? Oh, hell no. How does it work when it's non-union? Because I've seen many dubious folks posting in Facebook groups. Okay, so that's a great question. I mean, most of the time, all of the time, you're going to start out in the non-union world. There are some groups that are better than others on Facebook. Listen, I think the stuff now posted on Mandy.com, which is a paid film hiring service, is dodgier than some of the stuff posted in some of the Facebook groups. So some Facebook groups are better than others. Hezukiltro, I know you have a different name and I'm blanking on it, but are you in Toronto? Because if you're in Toronto, I need the Facebook group called I Need a Fixer /producer/crew -Canada. It's I've seen perfectly legit stuff on there that's non-union. It's just low budget. A good non-union rate is about $350 a day plus kit plus camera fee, and I teach you what that is in the course. So basically we get a rental fee for our kit, and we get a camera fee for every camera above the A camera. Sometimes in non-union world, they'll just say it's a flat fee of $50 a day. Doesn't matter how many cameras we have. They'll do all kinds of things to get around that. So you're going to start non-union pretty much no matter what, unless you were kind of born into the union. I have friends who were born into the union and they got into the union right away, but the vast majority of us will work non-union for a few years and get enough. So yeah, I Need a Fixer is a good group. It's a solid group. It's just there are some occasionally dodgy things and they will be called out. I got in trouble for calling someone out because I got in trouble by people saying, why are you calling that person out? But there was a production manager in Ottawa who was looking for a script supervisor and they were paying no prep, or they were paying 1 day of prep on a feature. And that's not enough time to prep a feature. So I called that person out because someone said, oh, can you recommend people? We have a lot of people in Ottawa in my program, and a lot of people who work there and are in the union there, and a lot of non-union people. And I said, I wouldn't recommend a job to someone who's only offering 1 day of prep. And then people were mad at me for that. But I mean, I will educate people about what's involved. Because why are people basically budgeting so that script essentially preps for free while other departments get paid to prep? That's not fair. So we have a strong non-union contingent in Canada, in every province, but certainly in Ontario and BC, that sort of stick together and try to keep rates sort of, obviously there's a lot of rates that are lower than that. There's productions offering, $150, $200, and you sort of will weigh out, okay, is this my first short? Is it my first feature? You'll weigh out if you can afford to work for $150 a day for 12 hours, but ideally you're not taking those jobs. The average should be about $350. Some pay more and some pay less, but try to stick to a minimum of that. And you will be in the non-union world for a while. Just that's the nature of the film business. You got to amass long form credits. So you're working your way sort of up the food chain. The other thing that I offer, it's especially for the Canadians because most of the jobs on it are for Canadians, is once you graduate, once you get certified, you go into my alumni group. You can still stay in the regular class group, but you can also go into the alumni group. Non-union works on an honor system? No, it's on contract. No, don't ever do anything on, the honor system part of it is if they say we're paying favored nations, which means they're paying all the department heads the same rate, et cetera. You're kind of taking their word for it that you're getting the same as the other department heads. So you probably want to talk to the other department heads to make sure that, let's say they're like, everyone's on the same flat and it's $200 a day. You want to make sure that that's true. But otherwise it's all in writing. You want to have a written deal memo. So it's not really on the honor system. It's a written deal memo. It's just that some of the dodgy producers can get away with stuff in the non-union world that they can't get away with unions, because if they're dealing with a union, they've posted a bond for pay. I've heard of not, it's not that normal, but sometimes you'll hear about a show that didn't pay people their last check or their last two checks, right? Sometimes that'll happen in the non-union world. But it's not the majority of the time. Most people have to be accountable. I have some really, like the new generation, like they don't put up with anything. Like when productions do that, they call them out. Like even like, I think the producer, the director and producer who did 40 Acres were amazing people. They're amazing people. I went to school with them. But they were called out for not paying the crew the last check. And then until the industry got involved and said, you got to pay your people. So, yeah, that's sort of a risk you take in the non-union world, and it sucks, but it's not forever. It's just while you're building your resume, and most people are honest and good. And the problem that I see in the non-union world is when production managers don't know what we do, and therefore they don't schedule enough prep, and they don't budget for it or schedule for it. And they don't understand that we're a department head. If that's happening, you got to call it out and say, hey, I've got to be paid the same as the other department heads, because we're running our own department. Just because we're a department of one doesn't mean we're doing less work. Just because we wrap out paperwork and we're not packing gear into trucks, it doesn't mean it's not work. It's also work. So always make sure to put the 1 hour of wrap in your deal memo. Everything is negotiable. When you have when you are a union member, the union negotiates the minimum terms and conditions, and then you negotiate beyond that. In non-union, you're negotiating everything, which is why I do a lot of negotiations training in the program. All right, everyone. Thanks so much. It is a journey. It's those first few years are critical, and the amount of, if you can speed up the amount of time to get you into the union, like that's just going to benefit you on a financial level, because whichever union you join, NABET, IATSE, listen, there's not unions in every country in the world either, but the faster you can get to the kinds of shows that you want to do, the happier you will be in the long run. Nicole, just message me what time you want to talk, and we'll talk tonight, anytime until 9. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Bye.